Hey everybody, this is Pastor Mark. Thanks for tuning in. I thought I'd just offer a couple of minutes, maybe a devotional thought, and I hope you get something out of this. I thought of this a couple of days ago. I think one of the responses to these difficult times, obviously the pandemic, protests and marches and racial tension and overall political angst, is that it forces people to think and reflect. About a month ago, I had a neighbor, it wasn't George, ask me if I thought we were in the last times and if Jesus was coming soon. And I told my neighbor, yes, I actually think we're living in the last times, but my guess was as good as hers as to whether Jesus was coming back or not. She was asking this question more in terms of some type of disastrous apocalypse and not in terms of Christian hope, which is what characterizes our longing for the end times. And on the one hand, I thought it was good that she was thinking and reflecting, but on the other hand, I thought the nature of her reflection missed the mark. I really don't think it's productive to think in terms of general musing about some cool or tantalizing theory about what may or may not, and probably not, is going to happen to America. There are a lot of people who engage God like it's some big Hollywood drama, filled with action and gore, and we're living in times that, of course, feed that type of thinking. And rather than think about God or questions related to God in that way, I think it's much more productive, and it's certainly more biblical, for us to reflect on our personal relationship with God, our own faith, our own relationship with our neighbor. People ponder, why is this all happening to us? Well, it's happening because of sin. And it's also happening because mankind is a real mess. But we know this. And we could ask this question, this same exact question, 1,000 times over, particularly, as it relates to events in the past. People ponder, why doesn't God just do something about this? Well, for starters, he did do something about it in Jesus, and not just on Calvary. But what people are asking of God to do in this question is something that he's not ever done in history, and that's wave a magic wand and poof, everything is suddenly better. He's never acted that way. Big, sweeping, dramatic, fantasy-like questions and thoughts, they don't help us because there aren't clear answers. And moreover, it's not how God operates. These types of questions aren't much different from my neighbor complaining about trash pickup in our cove and waving her hand wildly and asking, why doesn't God do something about this? We really need to narrow our focus. In Jesus' ministry, the percentage of time that he devoted to what I call big or extravagant events compared to small and personal events is a pretty significant ratio, like a 90 to 10, maybe 80 to 20 ratio. And what I mean by that is this. He fed 5,000 people, that's really big, it was a big audience, and he preached the Sermon on the Mount, and that's another big audience. But the majority of his teachings and many of his miracles and healings were done in small and even private settings. Think of the healing of Jairus' daughter, teaching Zacchaeus at night in his home. The miraculous catch of fish involved only the 12 apostles. Even the big dramatic events, like the resurrection, or the time when he walked on the Sea of Galilee, only the apostles and a few of the other women were present. The point is that faith and ministry of Jesus is very much a personal matter, an individual conviction or revelation. And let's not forget that all of this was happening under the terribly oppressive and dangerous rule of Rome. If you think that American politics is rough right now, you ought to read a little history. So where is the Lord in all of this craziness and all this mixed up world and everybody's anger? Well, he's where he's always been. He's with you and your family and our church. He's in the Word and Sacraments. Look closely at your life, really closely, and you'll see God working. Celebrate the smaller things, which according to God really aren't small at all, actually. They're quite big. Times with your family, children, laughter, walks outside, weddings, births, grandchildren's accomplishments, a great meal together, a morning of peace, a really good and thoughtful devotion, the words I love you, a good deed you just did for somebody, and the thank you you received. These are just a few things that God is doing to you and for you. And please don't think that just because there's political unrest and marches and garbage all over the television that God isn't working. He most definitely is. You just have to look in the right places. Thanks for tuning in.